Yeah, I think that they get used to the pattern of play that Bellamy puts in front of them and asks them to put into play when they get onto the field, to be absolutely comfortable with that three-quarter way through the season, and then lose your key playmaker is not going to be an easy ask.
Well, hello once again and welcome to Queenslander with thanks to Tab. As always, I'm Adam Jackson, joined by Queensland Origin legends Darren, Lockyer and Wally Lewis. And here at this time of year in Queensland, we're not just counting down to the NRL Finals Series, but also the EKKA. It starts next week in Brisbane, a tradition. And with that in mind, I'm going to hand it over to Wal because you've been busy doing some research. You've been taste testing the famous strawberry sundaes that we get, the ice cream. You went to the Lick Factory today. How good was that? Fantastic. Actually, it was exactly what I wanted to be doing today. I spent a couple of hours down there and going through a couple of different ones. It was an absolute delight. I'm sure that I'm going to be offside in the kilo department, but certainly one of those occasions where it was fantastic to be able to get down there. I've still got to say that.
What's the process? Just strawberries in and then soft serve on top?
Well, you get the strawberries in, and they always put one on top in the strawberry department. So that was there this morning, and certainly the centre of attention. There might have been more than one eaten as well. Yeah. So there was a few of us testing them, and it seemed to go down very well.
Did they mention at all how many they sell over the whole exhibition?
No, he didn't. The guy just said thousands. That was it, and I guess you can understand that'd be the case. It'd be interesting to know though, Locky, how many actually get knocked over. But it's one of those annual events that I think everybody loves to be able to get along there and cut back a little bit. The Dagwood dogs as well. I have been known to give those a bit of a shy workout every now and then.
They told me too you deliberately did a few extra takes so you can taste test a bit more. Is that true?
That may have happened, yes, that may have happened. But yeah, practice eating those. I can't think of a better way to start the day. Yeah.
They tell me too the condensed milk caramel, that goes real good at the Lick Factory. So that's a different one besides the strawberry sundaes we see at the EKKA every year. Lockie, do you go to EKKA as a kid?
I did as a kid, and I do remember, and this is showing my age, I remember going on the train and having $40 in my pocket, and that got me in. It lasted me the whole day, got me home. I was there with my parents, but like $40 these days is probably one show bag. So
yeah, that's it. Yeah, we can't wait for the EKKA to come along. Probably see some appearances there by the Broncos and Dolphins. Usually the teams here in Queensland get around them, but also start this week's show on a bit of a sombre note. Some sad news coming out of Queensland State of Origin this week. One of the Maroons' legends, one of Wal's former teammates, one of your favourite teammates, Sam Backo, unfortunately passed away. Wal.
Yeah, very sad that Sam passed away. He's been battling for a number of months, and he was still in a great mood. Gino and I got the opportunity to go along and visit Sam, say good day to him, and he seemed like he was in great spirits. He was battling all the way though, and sadly lost his fight for life. He really needed to be in his homeland though when he wanted to go, and said to his wife, get me out of here. If I'm going to pass away, I'm going to want to die in a area where I'm going to feel very comfortable. And it was a very moving moment, and he's one of those guys, though, I've got to say, that you ask any of the guys that had the pleasure of playing alongside Sam Backo, did they enjoy having him in the side? And every other time except dinner, you loved having him beside you. He was one of those guys that used to create doubt in the mind of the New South Wales players and really did frighten a lot of those off. And I remember Steve Roach just said, mate, I've never been frightened by anybody until Sam Backo came along, and that was a real wrap for Sam. Wonderful bloke, promoted the game extremely well. He was just one of those guys that you loved having beside you in the team.
Could score a try too for a forward.
Yeah, he got a couple of them, I think, in an Origin game, and you can understand why. I think in the old terms he was about 19 and a bit stone.
Yeah.
So if he had somebody that was of lighter nature in the opposition team standing in front of him, Sam had no sympathy. He simply ran at the smaller guys and scored a couple of tries for Queensland and really did extremely well.
Yeah, I didn't know Sam. He's obviously a bit before my time, but he just looked tough and he looked like fun.
Yeah.
Like you said, one of those players left it all out on the field, and then, when it was time to celebrate the win or commiserate the loss, he was, a bit of a life of the party.
Yeah, he sure was, Lockyer. You hit the nail on the head there. He was always fun to be around. The guys used to say, except for dinner time. That was it. You didn't want to be sitting next to him at the table, but one of those guys that I think that... he had certain legendary status about him, and for good reason. He went down to Canberra to get his career rolling, and certainly was spotted by some pretty handy coaches when he went down there, and got the chance to be able to come back to Brisbane and to have him in the side for the Broncos and also for Queensland really was a benefit.
Yeah, big part of the Queensland Origin dominance towards the late 80s. I'm pretty sure he's still the only front rower to win back-to-back Man of the Match awards in State of Origin. I think it's Game 2 and Game 3 in 1988, that game you referenced before where he scored 2 tries there. Well, yourself and a lot of other players rightfully get the raps, but he was essentially an unsung hero in that era.
Oh, yeah, the front rowers, and they don't mind reminding us when they think that they should get the Man of the Match honours, and Sam did it. He certainly let go after one game, but he picked up a couple of the Man of the Match awards, and deservedly so. But he was just one of those guys that used to say about you blokes out there in the backs that don't do any work.
Yeah.
We do it all up front here, and for the majority of that game, that was true. He had the bonus, the benefit of having Wayne Bennett in charge at times of some teams that he played in, and Wayne really knew how to get him inspired for some wonderful performances. But he was just a great guy, very funny man as well. We used to sort of take it out on him on different occasions throughout some times, and there are, just to bring one to the fore, we were in every time that we used to get in a bus for a trip in New Zealand when we were on a tour. We used to drive along and try and pronounce the names of these New Zealand towns, and some of them had 13, 14 letters in them, and it was Sam and Blocker Roach up front, and we thought this is going to be entertaining. And we got to one place, and the bus driver slowed down, and Sam says, I'll take this one here. He said, I know this one, it's Takiawa. And the bus driver said, no, this is, and he pronounced the name of the town. He said, no, it's over there. The sign says Takiawa. And the bus driver nearly fell out of his seat. He said, that's a food shop. The sign says takeaway. And Sam was looking at it and going across the letters, and he realised it was. And then he took it out on all the blokes that were laughing at him, and instantly we stopped. But he was a wonderful guy and a real pleasure to have on our side.
Yes,
there's plenty of Sam Backo stories, and I never played with him or didn't know him that well. But the one I always remember was the one where he went to the physio and he's getting treatment for a cork, and you got those machines, the nerve stimulators. And so you put the little round things on your leg, and the physio said, oh, look, you just turn that dial up so you're comfortable, but it's giving you a bit of movement so we can stimulate the muscle. And he goes, yeah, righto. And then she walks away, comes back, and because there's a couple of machines there, he's cranking the dial up, and he's going, oi, this ain't working. So she comes back over, and she goes, that's because you're twisting the wrong dial. There's like a little kid on the next bed.
Oh.
With his leg just going.
He's coughing it.
In agony.
So, yeah.
Yeah, one of the true characters, Slam and Sam. So, thoughts and prayers and condolences to the Backo family, an absolute legend of Queensland Rugby League. So let's we'll move on now to the big game on Thursday night that you'll catch live and free on Channel 9. Broncos Storm blockbuster. Locky, your Broncos coming off a huge win against the Bunnies. Only the 4th time in Broncos history they've scored 60 points or more in a match. Is that a good or a bad thing for Brisbane coming into a match against Melbourne in terms of complacency, cockiness?
It's going to be a totally different contest. That's for sure. Like totally different defence. You know, nothing against the Bunnies, and I know Wayne Bennett teams generally defend well, but they're obviously way down on troops, and the Storm are a different beast, and playing them in Melbourne, they're going to be. There's going to be a lot less time, with the football to make decisions for the Broncos. So I think it's good for their confidence what happened last week, but I think equally they've got to be aware that this will be a totally different contest.
Yeah, I agree, Lockyer. It's almost like you're playing chess against Melbourne. A lot of the times you've got to be able to outmove them and play very smart. Make sure that you don't try and out-attack them on every opportunity. And when you're in charge of the football, you've got to make sure that whenever they get it, it's as deep inside their own territory as possible. And the challenges that lie ahead for Melbourne aren't easy ones. And if you're in a game like that against them, it's certainly going to be worth the price of admission.
Yeah, we saw the Eels almost upset Melbourne last week. Are they inherently more gettable now that Jerome Hughes is out injured?
Yeah, look, I think when you take an experienced number 7 out of any team, they're going to, you have to compensate for that, and so he calls a lot of the shots for Melbourne. So look, I think for Brisbane on the back of their win last week, playing in Melbourne, no Jerome Hughes, it's going to be a difficult game to win, but I think this is probably their best chance in Melbourne for a while. Yeah,
how difficult is it to reshuffle halves towards the back end of the season, like Melbourne Storm will have to do?
Yeah, I think that they get used to the pattern of play that Bellamy puts in front of them and asks them to put into play when they get onto the field, to be absolutely comfortable with that three-quarter way through the season, and then lose your key playmaker is not going to be an easy ask for them. I think it'll be quite difficult, but having watched Bellamy, he learned under Bennett and had some ideas that he loves to put in place, and he'll set simple challenges for those that are out there in the starting side and make life as comfortable as possible, and turn that around for when the Broncos have got the ball. It'll certainly be very difficult for Brisbane because the Storm defenders won't be offering opportunities to Brisbane. They'll have to make the most of it and try and cash in on the few chances that seem to come along.
I hope it's a really close game for the sole purpose that the best vision we get in a Melbourne Storm game is Craig Bellamy blowing up in the box. Like, if the Broncos can continually push them back into their game, how good's it seeing Bellamy blow up? I never get sick of it.
No, I mean, I think it's a part of our game that I think everyone enjoys.
Yeah.
Maybe except for Craig.
Yeah.
It's just one part of the entertainment that we have in our game, and he's a perfectionist, Craig. And he will study the Broncos really hard this week, and he'll have them defensively ready for what their strengths are. Obviously, Reece is involved in that. Adam Reynolds, Katoni Staggs, he'll have a plan in place, but if the players don't execute the plan he's got in place, then that's when Craig lets us know.
And it's also a 100th game for the Storm for Harry Grant, so it's great to see our Queensland hooker achieve that century milestone. But Locky, if they do spring an upset for the Broncos, top 4 becomes a very realistic possibility, because the Warriors are currently in 4th, but they're coming back to the field a bit.
Oh, look, I think if you want to be top 4, you've got to start beating some good teams.
Yeah.
So, if the Broncos are top 4 material, then if not a win, but a very good performance against the Melbourne Storm is bare minimum.
Yeah.
The coach loves challenges, so do the Broncos players. I think we're in for a bell ringer. This one, it's going to be a fantastic game that's in place, and pride will certainly play an enormous part in this game, and so will the amount of mistakes that are put up by either side. I don't expect to see too many at all, and that is gentle respect for the opposition. When you've got that respect, you also have a fear for making life very, very tough for yourselves when they're in charge of the footy, when they're in possession. So it's going to be a bell ring in this one.
Yeah, well, after tackling the Storm in Melbourne, the Broncos will return home for a blockbuster match against the Dolphins. But this week, the Dolphins focus Saturday afternoon against the Roosters. But no Herbie Farnworth, potentially for the rest of the season, Locky. Like, everyone I've spoken to about that was just like heartbroken seeing that image take place of him doing his hammy.
Well, that's one of the, like, visually the worst hammies I've seen, you know.
Yeah.
Like, Hammer's probably still saying, why didn't he pass me?
Yeah, would have got another try.
And he was going good, Herbie.
Yeah.
He's been having a good year, but yeah, that looked pretty severe. So, I think they'd have to go deep into the finals for Herbie to be a part of it again.
Yeah. How big of an effect would that have on their finals aspirations? Well, because you look at the Dolphins, it's almost, Herbie, Hammer and Katoa have been really running the show.
Yeah, it could be extremely difficult, Adam, but I probably think that there'll be a carrot dangled in front of all the rest of the players, and they'll have the opportunity to be able to go out there and make sure that they produce efforts whilst they've got one of their key players on the sidelines, and you've got to do that. Whenever you're missing players, it's up to those still on the paddock to be able to produce their best and make sure they play as perfectly as possible and as deep inside the opposition territory as they possibly can. And when you manage to do that, you tend to get that little bit of confidence aboard, and everybody seems to come closer as teammates, and I expect that's going to be the case.
Potentially, would you look at moving Hammer, Locky into the centres and bring Trey Fuller, who's only recently come back from ACL surgery, at fullback, or is that like strengthening a weakness but weakening a strength?
Yeah, I'd be reluctant to move Hammer.
Yeah.
I just think, as we saw in Origin, when you get him in and around the ball and that freedom to go wherever he wants as a fullback, I just think he turns a half opportunity into points. So I'd be reluctant. That's nothing against Trey.
Yeah.
So I'd just be reluctant to move him. I'd try and find a left centre. There's a couple of good matchups in this game. Obviously, Tedesco on Hammer and two halfbacks.
Yeah.
Sam Walker on Isaiah.
Potentially, this could be, in 5 years' time, the two Origin halfbacks going head-to-head, Katoa and Sam Walker. It's bizarre that Sam Walker lives in New South Wales but is a Queenslander, and Katoa lives in Queensland but is a New South Welshman, so back and forth.
Gus would say it's a funny game. Right?
Yeah. We did an interview with Isaiah Katoa the other day, who speaks superbly for a 21-year-old who's now captaining the Dolphins in the midst of their injury absence. And he's contracted now to the end of 2028, and I said to him, essentially he's cost himself money. So had he have gone to the open market, a lot of those expansion clubs would have tried to recruit him. And I said, why have you done it? Have you regretted it? And he said 3 reasons I've re-signed with the Dolphins. I feel as though I owe it to them because they took a chance on me coming out of school. Also, he loves living in Redcliffe. He didn't realise how good it is living in South East Queensland. And the third one, which was quite telling, he said, Wolfie was my first ever coach in Tonga as a teenager. He gave him my start in what was essentially first grade rugby league. So it was interesting to hear a player prioritise those things over money, because on the open market, he could write his own cheque, I reckon.
Yeah.
He's a good kid, and I think sometimes it's not always about the money. You want to be happy where you're playing your footy. He's always going to have probably better money elsewhere offered to him, but he's comfortable and he's enjoying it, and I think he could be a 10-year player at the Dolphins, and I do think under Christian Wolf, eventually they're destined to win a premiership.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lockyer, and he just looks so comfortable where he is. The style of play that he's producing, and his ability to be able to work in with a coach and still be able to play his style of game whilst probably sticking to the team plan as close as he possibly can. And he just looks to be, as you were saying, Lockyer, in the right place at the right time. Everything about him is fantastic, and he is extremely comfortable. And I think that where he gets to be able to produce his own game with such quality is a real indication that he made the right decision on where to go and when.
What about this for a hypothetical scenario? Say there's a competition-wide draft, national draft, every player gets put in the draft, and you're the Perth Bears and PNG, the two expansion franchises. You can pick any player in the competition. Who do you recruit to your club? Is Katoa close to the top of the list or ahead of Nathan Cleary? Because you can get 10 years out of Katoa?
Oh, look, I think if you were looking for immediate success, like I think you go the more experienced player like a Nathan Cleary. But yeah, I think when Nathan Cleary is finished, I think Isaiah Katoa just jumps into his shoes, and you're not going to, they'll be pretty close. The shoes, he's very much the same style as Nathan, game manager, great, with his deception at the line, kicking game, so that. I think it's incredible that we've got two talents like that, just one after the other.
Yeah, phenomenal to watch Katoa, but he'll be short of a bit of firepower this week. Not only Herbie Farnworth is out, but Felice Kafusi copped a 2-game suspension for that tackle that broke the leg of the Warriors player. Did match review committee get this right? How hard is it to balance this one out?
I think Kafusi got lucky.
Yeah.
I think that tackle is why they went crack down on it.
Yeah.
That is a hip drop.
Yeah.
And it's caused a decent injury.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm a huge fan of Kafusi's and was probably very hopeful that wasn't going to be the case, but I agree with you, Locky, and particularly having seen illegal incidents almost swept under the carpet previously. If you're trying to promote the game in the best possible way and make it fair and also very safe, you've got to stick to the rules that are in place. And unfortunately, it'll mean that he doesn't get to pull on the jersey, but he'll be back.
Yeah, he'll learn his lesson from that in the lead up to the finals. Hopefully the Dolphins make it there. So they play the Roosters. So this is a fascinating encounter. So it's 8th versus 9th. So essentially one of those 4-point games we get towards the back end of the season. Not only you get 2 points, you deprive a competitor from getting 2 points. Do you think how much of their finals hopes rest on this encounter, Locky?
Well, I think a bit like the Broncos and the Storm. I think, if the Broncos want to consider themselves top 4, then they probably need to, if they don't win, they have to go close. And I think the Dolphins or the Roosters are in the same boat.
Yeah.
This is going to be a high-quality game. And, the winner will take a lot of confidence out of it going into the finals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to see one hell of a game there. There'll be respect shown for the oppositions, and I think that we'll see not so much creativity on show, but a little bit of safe pattern of play, kicking to the corners, and they will rely upon the kicking games to keep the opposition as deep inside their own territory as possible.
Yeah, this is part of Indigenous Round 2, and they'll do a special commemoration before the match, the Dolphins. One of Arthur Beatson's sons will lead the Dolphins out, so it's great that Artie's being remembered in that fashion. Of course, heavily involved with the Roosters and the Dolphins. They play for the Artie medal, who will get man of the match in this one. Who do you think? Artie was one of your coaches and teammates in Origin, Wal. Who would Artie want to win this one? Because they're both heavily entrenched in the finals race. Would Artie be going for Dolphins in this one or the Roosters?
Yeah, he'd be going for the Dolphins. I'm sure he'd be very thankful of all of the start that he got off at Redcliffe. And he'd be very thankful for all the patrons that helped him buy beers at the hotel that Arthur had at Redcliffe. He'd be wanting to repay them in the best possible way. So yeah, he'd stick with it. He loves his time that he was with the other mob, but his beginning at Redcliffe and the way that he finished up, he'll never forget those times.
Yeah, and he'd be so proud that the Dolphins now possess one of the most exciting Indigenous players in the competition in Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. So looking at the Dolphins finish, Locky, so they play the Roosters this week, then the Battle of Brisbane against the Broncos, then Manly, Titans, Raiders. The two games that stand out for me are the Roosters and Manly because they're the sides they're battling for a top 8 berth. If they can win those two games, I think they're in.
Yeah, so don't turn up against the Broncos. That's probably
Remember that game last year? Oh, didn't the Dolphins turn it on? Jake Averillo was excellent in that, and then Hammer too. So I think now it's the perfect time to move on to our tab big call. Gents, have we got anything for this one this week?
All right, Indigenous Round. He's in sublime form. Jaden Campbell to get a hat-trick.
Ooh. Against the Bunnies, Wayne Bennett's Bunnies.
So, yeah, he's going good. He was awesome last week.
Just don't run in front of him if he's kicking a goal. Like, it's not that hard.
All right, I'm going to go for the Melbourne Storm to push the Broncos all the way. This is going to be a bumper, absolute bumper. Xavier Coates will be the try scorer, and he won't be welcomed by everybody at the ground. But it's going to be as good a game as we're about to see. There's a little bit of pride when these two come up against each other. They play some wonderful games quite consistently, and it could have important factor on where they get to be able to finish on the table. 2 points. It's getting more and more desperate as we go towards the finals.
Yeah, and Xavier Coates, we always forget he started off his career at the Broncos, so one of many with the bit of extra feeling for that clash between the Broncos and Storm. I'm going to double down on my prediction that week 1 of the finals we will see the Broncos play the Dolphins. So it'll either be 5th versus 8th or 6th versus 7th.
Okay.
That'd be good to watch. Can you imagine selling those tickets? So
I think next week will be, they'd have to go close to sell out.
Yeah.
Broncos, Dolphins.
And then if a few weeks later they play in the finals, that would be huge.
I agree with you, Lockyer. It'll be real close to, we like to promote games by saying, it'll be a sellout, but there is such great interest from both clubs at the moment, and the standard of the play that's being displayed by both should guarantee that the game we're about to watch will be an absolute beauty.
Yeah, I think that's a Saturday night game, that one, the Broncos, the Dolphins. But moving on to the Titans, you just touched on Jaden Campbell before there, Lockyer. He was super on the week. How good of a halfback can he be? Because he's proven a lot of people wrong that kind of had him in the box of just being a fullback.
Well, he's taken after his dad, didn't he? His dad played fullback, his dad played 6, played 7, but you put him on the field because he can do things.
Yeah.
He can create something out of nothing, and he, like his dad, a competitor. When they were down 24-0, 26-0?
Yeah, 24-6 or something like that, yeah.
They were down, and, he and Brimson, there was a few of them, but they all kept trying till the end and got them back in the game. And so he's elusive, competitive, just a talent.
You're right, Lockyer. He's a lot like his dad. There's not much of him.
Yeah.
And when a lot of people tend to take a peep at the players that are on display, they have some doubt about their ability to be able to shine throughout the course of the game because of their size. Well, it doesn't play any part at all. Guts and determination play a massive role, but these guys, they've already proven that they've got plenty of talent on board. It's going to be another wonderful opportunity, and I think for Jaden to be able to go out there and repeat that is certainly a real thrill for his supporters.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, the Titans upset the Warriors, who are in the top 4, and then they just lost to the Panthers in Golden Point. Panthers are the form team of the comp at the moment. Why do you think, Lockyer, though, it's taken so long to see the makings of a good team for Gold Coast?
Good old-fashioned spray.
Yeah, okay.
Everything's sort of, the last fortnight's changed on the back of the
dressing room incident,
shower episode.
Yeah.
I think, and this has been the Titans even before Des, they show patches of putting a good month together, and then it just seems to fall away.
Yeah.
They're just in and out of an 80-minute game, but then they're in and out of I guess their monthly program. They're just so they've had 2 good weeks. I think the trick for them now is to back it up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the coach is pretty keen for him to do it. I've seen Des. The blood pressure has been at an all-time high at different times over the last couple of weeks, but I think they've certainly improved. They've got to a point where they've got a bit of confidence about them. It's being consistent throughout the course of the game, and they've got the players. It's just a matter of putting that into place.
It's all gone quiet around Des's future in the past few weeks. Do you think those last 2 results has the Titans board maybe rethinking their decision, or?
If they hadn't already made a decision, then I think they would. I think the last 2 weeks would have definitely helped Des's cause. I think the only risk or concern for Des is that they made the decision, a few weeks back when it was all looking very, dark and gloomy. But the last 2 weeks is. I think it's that's an example of what Des can do to a footy team.
And I'm sure he will remind everyone that a season is the full length, not make it after a couple of disappointing losses. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, but I think that we haven't seen the last of the Gold Coast.
Yeah, fascinating too. Two of their best performances have come while Tino's been out injured.
Yeah.
So maybe that's had an inspirational effect of like, okay, our forward leader's out, we all got to step up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You take out one of your best players, it just means everyone else has got to, put another 1-2% effort in. That's what you get. If they collectively do that, then that's what you get.
Yeah, it's funny, Adam. I mean, there's been plenty of times, where some of the Broncos probably thought, I won't take this. Lockie's the playmaker here. He comes up with the great plays, and you just feel, and times where Darren might have missed a game or gone off and got replaced. Those players. They feel the right to be able to go and take over from those stages, and it's when they get to be able to produce their best performances. So it's a tough call, but it'll be interesting to see how they go. I don't think Des has sort of finished his planning for this season yet. He's a guy that will be asking that the Titans players produce their best performances. There's no doubt about that. What they will be and the style of game they'll be playing, only time will tell those, but I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. Yeah,
and if the Titans do beat the Rabbitohs this week, which is essentially the spoon bowl, they'll avoid the wooden spoon, because you see how decimated the Rabbitohs are. I can't see them winning too many other games throughout the season. So it's almost whoever wins this game will avoid the wooden spoon.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot more optimism out of the Titans after the last fortnight.
Yeah.
They didn't, even though Penrith got out to a 24-point lead, Penrith were just perfect.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the Titans were doing much wrong, but then they got their mojo in the second half. So big game for them this week.
Yeah, and while we're talking about what we'd like to see, also, Souths, they've been doing it.
Very tough.
Oh boy, that last game, I probably think that's as big a challenge as I've seen any coach face to get the players in place for that game. Weren't too many that a lot of people had heard of before, and certainly they had a go. They had a real dig, but unfortunately they just didn't have enough experience on board.
Yeah, bizarrely, couldn't even have an 18th man. That's how decimated. I've never seen that before.
No.
It's without being disrespectful to the South players, it was reserve grade versus first grade.
Yeah, it was. You could tell in that second half.
Yeah.
Felt sorry for Jai Arrow. Geez, he busted his backside trying to do most of the bunnies.
Oh, that's who Xavier broke his arm on, Jai Arrow's shin.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Didn't realise that. And the young fella who chased down Jordan Ricky, Ashton Ward, I think it was. He looked skinnier than me. Yeah, but fantastic effort to chase down Jordan Ricky just before the try line. So hopefully we see plenty of him in the future. Just finally on the Titans, you mentioned the Panthers were perfect, except for their trainer running in front of Jaden Campbell with that goal kick. You could really sense how annoyed Jaden Campbell was and how frustrated. What are your thoughts on that? Like the Panthers said it was accidental. I think if you believe that, you still believe in Santa Claus.
Oh no, I look at the body language of the trainer. He was very apologetic. I think it was an accident. The Titans obviously don't see it that way, but I think it was 26 or 24-0, right? And then what starts happening? It just becomes chaos. Like the Penrith going, okay. Hang on a minute, at half-time we were meant to win this game, and now all of a sudden we're a chance of losing it. So chaos starts to build amongst the players, amongst the trainers. I've been involved with it as a player. You start to think more about why are we in this situation rather than what we need to do next. And so I think he just had a lot of things going through his mind.
Yeah, okay.
And I think Jaden had kicked a couple from the other sideline. So his habit was to go out, give the water to the boys, and then run that
way. Cut across, okay.
I don't think it's... I think there needs to be a look at the rule. If someone does that, then it's a penalty in front.
Yeah.
But, I don't think it was deliberate at all.
Yeah, okay. Andrew Abdo actually came out today and said we'll look at reviewing the rule at the end of the season because under the current stipulations, the referee was hemmed into a box. He couldn't do anything about that rather than what he just did. But yeah, hopefully in the future, your team's infringed, whether it be the trainer or someone else, you get a kick in front, kind of like an 8-point try.
Yeah. And so, in that scenario, he misses a kick out wide, but then he comes in and kicks it, and all of a sudden the 2-point field goal is taken out of play.
Yeah, and they have to score a try.
Anyway, it could be the catalyst to change a rule.
Yeah, so $50,000 fine there for the Panthers, and the trainer suspended for 5 games. Also interesting, Abdo reinforced that since 2021, that's the 6th time that the Panthers have received an infringement or a sanction. So he was kind of essentially putting the Panthers on notice of like, hey, we ain't going to take any of this anymore. So it was good to see the NRL CEO front-footed it.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't aware of that, but I still think that was an accident.
I just look at the vision. I see him deviate towards the end. So I don't know. It makes me second guess that it's an accident. So if you see the high shot, he's running, and then he almost runs towards Jaden Campbell, and then he stops and is like, oh, hey, sorry about that. But cold comfort to the poor old Titans. Once again, the losers in that situation. They don't get anything out of it.
Lie detector.
Well, maybe. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, if it's going to go out there for that, it'll be out there for about 50 other calls throughout the course of the game, so it might be overworked.
Well, before we wrap up this week's show, got to talk about my poor old Cowboys. Geez, they were bad against the Sharks. It's a really confusing form line. Middle of the season, they were in the top 8. They've really lost their way. What needs to turn around in North Queensland?
Well, look, I looked at Shark Park on Sunday, and I looked at that weather, and I'm thinking I wouldn't want to play either. But that's what they looked like they did in the first 40. They didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Their Achilles heel is their outside defence. There's no connectivity, there's no communication, there's just centres and wingers doing their own thing, and there's just so much gaps and spaces out wide. So they need to fix that, and that's been going on for months.
Yeah. Well, they've got the worst defence in the competition, and it shows.
Yeah. I was like you, Adam. I enjoy watching the Cowboys. Have been enjoying it anyway. It's certainly been no fun this time around. The coach, he must be the most cool, calm and collected bloke I've ever seen, to not be brought forward to show his mood at some stage throughout the course of the game. Now, I know, a coach's mood in the box is not going to improve the team's performance on the field, but certainly he doesn't appear to be too concerned by anything. But the players, they're in a little bit of a rut at the moment where it appears as though it's almost impossible to get out. They're a much better side than what we're seeing at the moment, and hopefully they can, improve that over the next couple of weeks, but it's not the finish that they had planned certainly for this season. And I got to be honest, I probably thought that and predicted that they were going to be one of the finishers. They'd be in the front 8, the finalists. So I've got an omelette all over my face.
Yeah.
Well, defence is attitude, right? And so they've been lacking in that department. But we talk about this word connection, and they just don't seem connected. So as a playing group, for some reason, they're just a bit disjointed. And so that's the coach's, that's the conundrum for me, is trying to find the way to get them connected and playing for each other. And if they get their defence right, there's plenty of points there. Drinkwater did, and there's enough points in them. They just got to get their D right.
Yeah, they almost have. What's annoying as a Cowboys fan, they almost have like this touch footy mentality of like, okay, we can win this 36-30. They just, and I don't understand with the unwavering tenacity of like Tom Deard and Ruben Qlder, how that doesn't rub off on teammates.
Well, the other thing you got to look at too, I'll talk about those outside backs, just not. Maybe being a little bit less experienced, but Val Holmes and Cole Felt left.
Yeah.
A lot of experience there.
Yeah.
And that's where they've been a bit showing up, is out wide defensively. So those two guys are big losses.
Nearly 400 games experience between those two, Lockyer, and in tough times, you tend to really rely upon those that have got enormous amounts of experience to be able to calm the ship. But they're disappointing times there, and I think the coach might be feeling a little bit nervous as to what the future is going to bring. But I'm sure that he's reacted previously, so hopefully he'll be able to do so and be able to finish the season on a little bit of a high note.
Yeah, Felty's still going good in the English Super League too. He'll be happy that I've given him a plug from the other side of the world. Scored 16 points for St Helens in their most recent win over Castleford. And Tristan Saylor is killing it for St Helens at the moment. But I think we're all sleeping on the fact that no Felt and no Holmes, and they didn't really replace them in the team. And my fear too is next season we lose Reece Robson. Reece Robson is so crucial to that side. As much as I'm loath to praise a New South Wales Origin player, he's been phenomenal for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Experience, no matter where they play on the field, is a big thing. Like you generally have to let go of the experience to bring the youth through. But I mean, when Capewell left the Broncos, we missed his experience too and his leadership. And I think that's been a big part of the Cowboys.
Well, Locky, your own performances, show that up. It doesn't matter where you play in the field. 5'8", the fullback to back to 5'8", and nothing changed about the standard of play. It was brilliant the whole time. So they've got to be able to convince themselves and probably show a little bit more confidence about their play. But it really has been a painful season for North Queensland, and I know you and I are fans, Adam, but it's been a bit of a sad finish. Hopefully, they'll be able to make the last couple at least acceptable.
Yeah, and Tamalolo's not there at the moment.
Yeah, he's had that nagging calf injury.
Yeah. Did Jordan McLean play?
No, he's been out injured also too.
There's quite a bit missing.
Yeah, the Tamalolo situation kind of needs to be rectified in the off-season because he's their highest paid player still. And it's not his fault that he's being injured, but something needs to be done there.
Well, I remember most people said as soon as he was injured and the message came through that he's gone, they wrote the Cowboys off instantly. They said they won't finish. That's it. They're gone for the year. So it's a big call to make, but a player of his standard and ability, well, I guess you can understand that.
Yeah, they're definitely out of finals contention now. But, Locky, how do they kind of take some momentum into next season? So look at their run home. They're the Sunday afternoon game. You'll catch live and free on 9. So they play the Eels, the Knights, the Tigers, Broncos up in Townsville, which will be their last game because they have the bye. So there's a real chance they could win 3 out of those 4.
Yeah. Well, what I said before, I think they need to finish the year with a good defensive outcome. The next month of footy, they need to set a target. I remember when we were at the Broncos under Wayne, we'd set a target for 14 or less.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Like if you focus on that, it takes the pressure off your attack and the attack will just flow. So I'd be setting targets around their defence, how many tackles they want to max out missing, and then how many points they lead in each game. If they can hit those targets, then that'll be positive for them at the back end.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Definitely. Yeah, they've got to try and finish the season on the right note, and it's certainly going to be a tough year and seen as one that wasn't what they had in mind. But again, when I think they kind of lost a lot of the confidence, when as soon as they lost the big fella.
Yeah.
That was for me anyway. It did appear as though they didn't have the same belief in themselves they did at the start of the year.
Yep, so just reinforcing, Sunday afternoon footy, you'll get to the Cowboys in action against the Eels, but it all kicks off Thursday night. Huge encounter, the Broncos up against the Melbourne Storm. Can the Broncos take another step towards maybe sealing a top 4 berth? Thanks for joining us again. We'll be back next week for Queenslander while Wall heads off to the EKKA. Catch you later.